With the shockwaves from Tuesday night's election still being felt around the country, especially the historic election again of Republican Donald Trump as president, I'm joined by two women who have strong opinions of what occurred. Dr. Taji Terrell, my co-host and a former Youngstown State University professor, and Emily Webster, well-known veteran journalist in the Mahoning Valley. Emily and Taji, thanks. And Emily, you wanted to read something first, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, I'm looking for what my brother-in-law listed this morning.
Okay.
I was so taken by this morning when I saw it because
Sure.
I think he hit it right on. And really what the basis of it was, we have created a race of Luddites, of men who are totally conscious of their shortcomings, even if they don't have shortcomings, and they absolutely refuse to give over any power to a woman.
Right.
And I believe that's what happened here.
I'd like you to describe how you felt last night when Trump was declared the winner over Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris. Emily, you go first.
Okay, at first I thought we were seeing, the red fog, the states with not many electoral votes coming in, and they were going to go red, and that was okay because the blue states were going to really do it.
Sure.
And so I was apprehensive, but I wasn't worried. And then I saw what Pennsylvania was doing, taking so long, and then I got worried, and I didn't even want to see what happened in the up states around the lake. I knew it couldn't win at that point, and I was physically ill. I went to bed at 2:00 in the morning, and I was physically ill. I woke up this morning hopeful that it might have changed, knowing that it couldn't, and I was physically ill again, and I am physically ill now.
Yeah, I might point out that Cindy Rickard, who is our co-host, and you know well, Emily,
Sure.
Was supposed to be with us, and she just couldn't do it. She said she is so angry, she's so ill, she is so, distraught over what happened that she just couldn't bring herself to join us today. But I appreciate you joining us. Taji, what was your reaction when you saw the results?
Well, to be honest with you, I was expecting this result. And I talked to my close friend from Turkey, who is a political scientist who appeared on your podcast last time. And she and I were talking a little bit, and she was asking me, what do you think will happen? And I said, I think Trump is going to win. But I thought there would still be a court case. I thought it would be closer than this.
Right.
And it was, it was a lot worse than I thought. But to be honest with you, I blame Democrats a lot about all this. And I mean, that's how I'm feeling. And I've been watching the news here as well as some of the news in Turkey. And I mean, you should see Turkish Twitter just full of memes because they're comparing this election to the last election we had. I mean, the one where the opposition party lost to Erdogan, because there are so many parallels, so many similarities, and they think, oh my God, like this is all exactly the same as what happened in Turkey. And even the reactions from people are similar. So it's either humans are humans everywhere, they all react the same way, or it's just US and Turkey are so similar in terms of politics because, the guy who lost to Erdogan last time, his name was Kamal. Basically like Kamal. Yeah. So it's a similar loss because everybody thought, okay, so we have against us is Erdogan. So anybody you put against him is going to win just because everybody hates Erdogan. But it didn't turn out to be the case. And I think that's what we are seeing now.
Well, but here's the key, I think, here. For the second time, the American people rejected a female presidential candidate. Both Vice President Harris and former U.S. Secretary of State and U.S. Senator Hillary Clinton were highly qualified to be president. What does that say about America, Emily?
I think it says that the racism and the bigotry and the division goes beyond color and ethnic background and religion. It is also gender-based. Hillary Clinton was the most qualified candidate to come down the pike. And how many years, Bertram? Nobody could deny it. She won the votes. She won. She won the popular vote. And look what happened.
Right.
Look what happened. And look what happened this time. We have a convicted felon, convicted on more counts than we can count, a corrupt rapist, adulterer, fraud, cheat, liar. Look at this. And it was all proven. It was proven in black and white up against a woman who offered nothing except humanity and intelligence and capability. And that frightened too many people. But what frightens me the most is not how many men voted against her. Okay. That, I'm afraid I understand that.
Right.
How many women it took to vote against. So what was their basis? You can't say all their husbands made them vote that way. Your vote is so secret, your mother doesn't know how you vote.
Right.
Say that. What we're looking at, I'm afraid, is a religious conviction so strong that it borders on superstition and ignorance. And I'm sure that's going to bring down a whole bag of stones on my head. But for God's sake, what are we doing? Let me tell you about one of the Facebook sites I looked at today and broke my heart. I have a friend who is, I worked with her in advertising. She's a refugee from Russia. She's a naturalized U.S. citizen. She has 4 children born in this country, all beautiful little children. And she was for Trump, which is okay, except that I always wondered why a Russian ex-citizen would be for Trump. And I still have some of these questions in my head that I don't even want to go there. But today she put on a post that showed one of her middle children, I guess she's maybe 5 years old, with a little red MAGA hat on her head, and her mother congratulating her and cheering on this vote that put this man into office, that will see to it that this child never knows the right to control her own body, for God's sake. Never mind her politics or her household.
Exactly.
What is the matter with us? And we have to start looking at, perhaps this goes deeper than we think. Do we have to start looking at ethnic backgrounds and see if we are really being planted with people who are to work like this? I mean, doesn't that sound crazy to you?
Yeah, it does. And you and I have both been around politics a long time. And if you look at the votes in Mahoning and Trumbull and Columbiana counties, and you look at this, what once used to be a heavily Democratic area, this is, I mean, my God, it is not just the state, not just the presidential, but statewide elections and local elections.
Yes. Our commissioner's race is up here.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Yes.
I cannot explain it. And Sherrod Brown, they voted out a decent, qualified, wonderful representative, senator, and they put in a used car salesman who can't treat his employees
and had questionable business background and everything like that. But let me get Taji in here, because Taji, first of all, tell me what in your mind what this says when 2 very highly qualified women are ignored or rejected by millions of Americans, but also put that in the context of Turkey, if you will.
Well, I mean, I really don't think that Turkey is a more civilized country than the United States, but we had a women prime minister. We elected one back in 1993, which is almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? So we are already past that. We don't have this thing about women. And so sometimes I feel like maybe this is not just about being a woman, maybe Kamala Harris didn't lose only because of that, or only because of the ethnicity. I mean, I know that's definitely a factor in the US politics. And I know a lot of people, I can tell they are racist, the way they speak, even when they defend that they're not racist. You can tell they are racist, when they say those kind of things, because they think of you as a lesser human being when they're talking to you, or they don't see everybody in the same plane as themselves. So they think they are like a better race, even when they defend their own racism. But at the same time, like, I'm going to disagree with you guys a little bit, because I think you can't simplify all of this based on ethnicity, based on gender. I mean, that's definitely something that people considered. But at the same time, I think there's an issue here with the Democrats acting like they are part of the establishment. And I think people are tired of that. I think people want to have politicians who are not really politicians. They are not following those like same standards, same
But
kind
but
of.
Donald Trump served 4 years as president. He is a politician.
He is, but at the same time, he doesn't act like I mean, I don't know. Whatever he does it so well that he acts like he is not part of the establishment. I mean, it's not true. It's just the way he presents himself sometimes, and the way he talks to people, the way he touches people in their like sensitive points. He's able to do that, but I don't think Democrats are always like that. And I mean, this is not just on Democrats either. Like, there's also the issue of a lot of people watching Fox News, watching certain news channels. And if you talk to somebody who supports Trump, they may not even know that he had to pay $80 million on a rape case, like
Right.
sexual assault. They won't even know about this. I mean, it's not coming up on their Fox News channels all the time. They don't talk about these things. So I saw on Facebook today, there were some women who were commenting on a post about Trump walking into the crowd, once he found out he was the president. And people were commenting, and these are women, they were like, I love this man. I love this man. I am so proud of this moment. They were excited about it. And so I'm thinking, they either don't hear about what Trump has done over the years, like how many women he has assaulted over the years, how many times the court actually found him guilty. I mean, they either don't know it or they think it's not true. So I think there's something that the media is doing to prevent people from seeing the truth.
Well, the problem is mainstream media has lost its influence, and so if you're getting your news from cable, from Fox, or from the internet, or from whatever, you're not getting balanced news. Like Emily and I know what balanced news is. But Emily, to Taji's point, it is clear that qualifications don't matter, because if they did, you would not be electing a man who filed for bankruptcy 6 times, who inherited $400 million from his father in order to start his life. If you compare qualifications, it's day and night with both Hillary Clinton and with Kamala Harris, and yet Donald Trump wins.
Yes, we used to. I'm old enough to remember when Americans voted for somebody who would lift us up, somebody who was better than us, smarter than us, could lead us, and we aspired to be like them. Somehow we've become a society where we don't want that anymore. We want somebody who's just like me, who's no better than me, understands me better. Okay?
Right.
Well, we're going to end up all on the same level as me. And if I happen to be a bankrupt ex-con, okay, and that's what I want to lead me.
Right.
I have. And I take a little opposition to the thing about the ethnic, the color thing, okay? I know that we have, of course we do, we're a bigoted country. We're bigoted against everybody. Sure. We are bigoted against everybody. And you can't tell me one person in this country who can tell you why he's an American, even if he's native born. When you tell him, why do you call yourself an American? And he'll tell you that his grandparents were Polish or Russian or Italian or whatever they were together. Okay, so what's an American? But when our first Black American was successful at running for the presidency, when Barack Obama ran for presidency, and who was he? He wasn't nearly as qualified as Kamala Harris.
Exactly.
He was a senator, right?
Right.
But the entire Black community got behind him.
Yes.
And I had conversations with the Democrat members of the Black community, with a lot of them, because I was upset that we were taking away Hillary's chance. That was her time, I thought. And they said she'll have her time, but this is his time, and we're going to do it. And they did it. Where were they Tuesday?
Okay, to that point, let me give you some numbers. So, white men who made up 34% of the votes, 39% of those white men voted for Kamala Harris, 59% for Donald Trump. White women who made up 37% of the vote, 47% voted for Kamala Harris, 52% for Donald Trump. Black men who made up only 5% of the vote, 78% were for Harris, 20% for Trump. Black women who made up 7% of the vote, 92% for Harris, and inconsequential for Trump. Hispanic Latino men who made up 6% of the electorate of the vote cast, 44% were for Harris, 54% for Donald Trump. Now, when you look at those numbers, you have to say—
those numbers, you're reminded of the story of the forest who thought the axe was their brother because they both were made out of wood. Where were their minds? Where were these people? The Latinos, after what got said about them, and they said about the blacks who had everything to lose in this election. He calls them animal names. He'll deport everyone he possibly can, and they turn out and they vote for him. It's like, it is really and truly like the story of the forest and the axe, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And Taji, you and I over the months have talked about Donald Trump's immigration policy and his view of immigrants. Yeah, the immigrants who come from shithole countries, and he wants immigrants from nice countries such as Denmark. And Taji, if you look at this election, I have to believe that it's not only women who have cause for concern, it's not only illegal immigrants, but it's even legal immigrants in this country because of the attitudes that he has espoused. So, Taj, talk to us about what your fellow Turkish members were telling you about this election.
Well, honestly, I have a lot of Turkish friends who voted for Trump. And I mean, also a lot who voted for Kamala Harris. So I mean, I don't really know what to say about this. If you just reduce this whole thing to ethnicity, immigration is a big issue, but we have a Turkish saying, the guest never likes other guests, the host hates them all. You know? So that's the situation with immigration. I mean, I spoke to so many people from other countries, you know, not just Turkey, but, you know, for Puerto Ricans, countries in the Middle East. And there are a lot of people who don't like more immigrants, you know. I mean, they're immigrants in themselves, but they don't like any more immigrants. So everybody thinks that, you know, they are American and nobody else can become immigrants like them anymore. Like, look at Elon Musk. I mean, he wrote something on Twitter against immigrants. Isn't he himself an immigrant?
Of course he is.
So with immigrants, I think there's some distorted idea about this. But in terms of Trump's statements against immigrants, that he's going to send millions of immigrants back, honestly, I don't know how he's going to do that. But if they took the Senate now, and I don't know about the House yet, but if they have a lot of power, then he may be able to do things that we now think, you know, he can never do that because America has a very established system. He won't be able to send like millions of people back to their countries, but
he will. And here's why he will, because the exit polling showed that immigration was one of the big issues of Trump's supporters, because he has successfully demonized immigrants, talking about how they've come in here and taken jobs from Americans, how they've taken jobs from Black Americans, how they brought in diseases, and they're rapists and they're murderers and they're all criminals and all of that. And if he has Congress, or he might even do it by executive order, he is going to make an attempt to kick out 11 million illegal immigrants because politically it's to his advantage, right, Emily? Or is that just political grandstanding?
But we are so insular. Do we not realize that immigration is not just a problem for the United States of America?
Right.
Immigration is a problem for civilized countries everywhere that are not starving. My heritage, as you are totally aware, Bertram, is Italian.
Yes.
I have visited Italy. I have been in the mountain villages where it's almost pure Italian yet, except that the farms that used to be farmed by Italians, who now are lawyers, doctors, and teachers, are now being farmed by Muslims. That's okay. They're getting on. In the cities, at the edges of the Mediterranean and the Adriatic, the Somalians and the Haitians are coming in so fast they can't be stopped.
Right.
They lay down blankets in the city streets of Rome and they sell knockoff Roman goods. It's all over the world. People who cannot live in their own countries will leave, and they'll desperately look for somewhere they can live and raise their families. We have room in this country. We have jobs for these people. We have jobs that our people are too good to work. I'm telling you, I have a small horse farm myself. Do you know what I go through trying to get somebody to clean my barn, for God's sake?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. They want money, but they don't want to work at that. Okay.
Exactly.
So luckily I still have Amish kids who are skilled at this and are not above it. But how long will that last? I don't know.
I think if somebody can stop Trump from doing that, from deporting immigrants, is going to be big business, because big businesses cannot afford to lose that money. They're saving so much money by hiring these immigrants who are able to work and who are able to do the job that nobody else wants to do. And they also often work for less. So I don't think the big businesses are going to allow Trump to do that. They're probably going to have a talk with him, and they're going to convince him that, he can't do that because we can't find workers. We're going to lose our business if you do that. So I think that's what may happen. And sometimes I think maybe people are really smart if they can think through this, especially the immigrants who voted, because I was looking at some of the numbers of like how many people voted and what kind of groups they are. And you just gave those numbers, but I was also calculating the totals. It doesn't even make up 45% of American voters. I mean, there are so many people in this country and such a small percentage of people vote. So even though it looks like 51% elected Trump, I mean, there are
51% of a
more
number
people.
It's 51% of a number that was less than 4 years ago. Because 4 years ago, more people voted in that election than they voted yesterday.
Right.
And so you're right. I mean, so, there's the voter turnout was very low. A lot of people stayed home. And I think that's one of the reasons Cindy's so angry, is because she felt that people, should have realized just how important this was. But let's, I don't want to take a lot of time on this thing, but let me go to another point. And both of you, Emily and Taji, can. Obviously, the Democratic Party is now under the microscope. And there has been suggestion that many of the issues it embraces, such as immigration, LGBTQ rights, affirmative action, are not what most Americans care about. And when I mean immigration, I mean open borders, letting in more immigrants. So do you agree? And Emily, let me start with you about the Democratic Party.
Boy, this is, I used to be accused sometimes of being more of an idealist than I should be.
Right.
But I'm going to say, and I have voted both ways. I have not always been 100% Democrat. It's only in the last 10 or 15 years that I have seen a disturbing trend among the Republican Party. I call it capitalistic urging, that turned me away. But I'd like to ask anybody, just what is it you would change about the Democratic Party? Would you take away their dedication to the poor? Would you take away their dedication to the homeless? Would you take away their dedication to the middle class or the lower classes? Do you think it's not right that they want fairness for employees? These corporations that are going to make Trump not deport immigrants are doing it because they have a great hold over the immigrants that they've hired. They're not just paying them 1/10 of what they're worth. Those people know they don't dare complain about work conditions because they don't have a job. So what are we looking at? We're looking at capitalism run amok. Not even amok, okay? It is criminal what we've allowed the capitalists to do to this country. And the only alternative to that is to a country that's based, I don't even want to say on the teachings that the Bible say about feed the poor, house the homeless, welcome the stranger. I don't live by the Bible. I live by what's in my heart. And I want to feed the poor. And I want to house the homeless and welcome the stranger and love my neighbor. And I want my neighbor to love me. Okay. And if I had never seen the outside of a Bible, that's what I would feel.
Right.
That's what Democrats espouse. That's the only thing that they espouse. Fairness for every working American. What is it you want them to change? I don't want them to change anything. I think if we're going to go down, we're going to go down fighting. And somewhere in the future, somebody's going to be able to say, this is what happened to them. Okay. The media gets a lot of blame, which makes me laugh.
Right.
Media gets a lot of blame for what people see. And all the media can do is repeat what we see and hear. We can have opinions, but then we aren't really media anymore, are we? We're analysts. Then we are Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and all those places, okay? That's not what I want to do. I want to say to you, hey, this man said this, and this man said this, and what do you think? Right. The media gets an awful lot, and I'm constantly being reminded that Walter Cronkite wasn't this kind of journalist. Walter Cronkite put it out there and let you think it. No, he didn't. Walter Cronkite came back from Vietnam and said, we'll be lucky to get out of there with our dignity intact. Yes. Your government is lying to you. And LBJ said, if I've lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost America.
Exactly.
That's the kind of party that I want the Democrats to be. I want them to keep on saying the truth, even if we pay the ultimate penalty.
And you know what, Emily?
Is that naive to you, Bertram?
No, it isn't. And I'll tell you why. Because if you had listened to Sherrod Brown's concession speech last night, that's exactly what he said.
Oh, good.
He is not giving an inch. He is not, giving up his core beliefs. He believes what he believes. He believes in the Democratic Party and what it stands for. And he said that fight is not over. It will continue. And I think that it's exactly what you're saying. But let me ask Taji. Taji, you're a voter, and I'm not going to ask you how you voted for president. I'm not even going to speculate. But as a voter, how important are issues, Taj, like affirmative action, LGBTQ issues, open borders, immigration? How does that how do you view those issues, Taji?
Well, I mean, those are great ideals, but the majority of the people don't really think that these are their biggest issues. I mean, if you don't have any LGBTQ members in your families, that's not your issue. It's a non-issue for a lot of families. And I think Democrats always run on these things, and these are great values, very humane, they're for immigration, and they're trying to protect the rights of all marginalized communities. But a lot of those are not main issues for the majority of the people. Like how many of the people in the US are part of the LGBTQ community? I mean, of course, there are a lot, and their rights are very important, but I feel like the US population does not see that as their main issue. And then Trump was able to run by saying, they're going to change the genders of your kids, just because there's so much focus on those issues. I mean, they are important, of course, but there are so many more important issues. And I think Democrats are never aggressive like the Republicans about those issues.
But Taji, how do you respond though? If so, Donald Trump said, you drop off your kids in the morning, you drop off your child as a girl in the morning, and then at the end of the school day, she comes back a boy, and you have to pick up a boy. Now, think about this.
It's nonsense, of course.
There are people who believe that. How do you then respond? What do you say? How do you respond to something like that?
Like, again, it's the certain media propaganda that gets into people's minds about these things. But the main problem is how the Democratic Party markets their values. Like, for example, they're really strong with unions, right? The
Right.
unions are their strong side. But the unions have been weakened so much in the last 4 years. The whole abortion case, I mean, they were actually really strong because the majority of the population supports the protection of rights of women to control their own body, right? But Democrats, I mean, they're still in power right now. Can they just make sure Roe versus Wade is back and take care of it? I bet you if there was a Republican Party right now, incumbent, and if they were about to leave, they would do whatever they can to ban abortion before they leave.
Taji, they cannot do it because the House is in Republican hands and the Senate is split 50-50. There's no way any legislation similar to Roe v. Wade can be passed at all. But what the Republicans have said, and this is something that women need to consider, what the Republicans have said, and especially in Project 2025, that there is ultimately going to be a national abortion ban if both houses of Congress are in Republican hands and Donald Trump is in the White House. So let me ask Emily this question. To what extent, Emily, are you concerned about the future of women's rights if indeed the Republicans take over Congress and with Donald Trump in the White House? Emily?
The first thing I want to say to you is, I'm going to protect women whether they like it or not. Got me a little worried.
Yeah.
The second thing is, abortion is an ugly word.
Yes.
I defy you to find a woman in the world who likes the word abortion or the act of abortion.
Right.
In any ordinary circumstance, a woman welcomes a child into her life, whether she has a husband or not. You know, a child comes into your life, and the child is your life, whether you have a husband or not. That isn't always the question. It helps if you have enough money or not. But there are times when it's impossible to survive with one more responsibility in her life. She probably already has a child or two. Maybe she's too young. Maybe she's been raped by her father. You watched it on television. You know it happens. You don't believe it, I guess. It's not anybody's business if her desperation drives her to do something she hates. It's just it's the lesser of two hateful things to have to do. No man can ever understand that. No comfortably married middle-class woman can ever understand that. Certainly no man can ever understand that. It really seems as though we've grown a generation of men who think it's their right to impregnate women.
Right.
What's happened to us?
Exactly.
We aren't even civilized anymore. We're back in Neanderthal ages. Grab them by the hair and drag them off to the cave, I guess. I don't know. But as awful as abortion is, there are things that are worse. There are children who were born into a world and they're hated from day one, and their lives reflect it, if they live very long. We could go on all day with the things that are worse than abortion. So we have to do like we do with starvation and homelessness and every other sin against man. We have to wish to heaven there was a way to avoid it. Legislating is not going to avoid it. They'll stop safe abortion. They will not stop abortion. Abortion is older than Christ. You can read in the natural histories how Aboriginal women aborted fetuses before the time of Christ. legislation is not the answer.
Yeah. Taji, as a woman, how concerned are you? Now, even if there isn't a national abortion ban, there's going to be a crackdown on what the so-called abortion pill. There's going to be even a crackdown on contraceptions. There's going to be a crackdown on, they're talking about a national registry of women who seek abortions. So, Taji, not only based on the fact that you're a woman, but based on the fact that you come from a country that, and it would be conservative, right? It would be described as being conservative. How do you sort of view this issue?
I don't think abortion is considered as something permittable anyway in Muslim religion in general. So in Turkey too, most people look at abortion. I mean, it is an ugly verb and nobody likes it. Women don't like it, but if they have to go through it, it's usually not something people do happily, you know. But like, to me, it's not an issue. I mean, it doesn't concern me as much. But when I think about the whole abortion talk in the US, it's kind of surprising to me because, you know, Muslims are more conservative about abortion than most Americans. And we still don't have an abortion ban in Turkey. And it's never an issue in politics. You know, abortion has never come up as something that's like, you know, oh, we have to like have some kind of law against it. This never comes up. Nobody ever thinks about it. So I'm always surprised that this comes up in the US because, you know, if you think about Turkey, it's more conservative, like there are more conservative people. They're all against abortion. Most women are against abortion. I don't think, you know, I can say that, you know, I am for abortion in any way. But at the same time, I don't understand why that has to be controlled by the government. I just don't understand that. I mean, for example, your religion may say that, you know, abortion is a big sin. You can't do it. Your religious book may say that, but this is not a theocracy. This is not a country run by Sharia law. So why is that an issue? I just don't get this. Like, I really don't understand this. And I do understand that there are a lot of women who may be raped or there are health reasons where abortion may be necessary. So I don't understand why the government has to mess with that. Like, it's something women have to decide for themselves. It's just, I can't even comprehend this whole abortion talk, like the discussion of it and why it is such a big part of the American politics. I just don't understand it, really.
May I offer an opinion?
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
I think that the government has been encouraged to get into the area of our personal bodies because of a huge movement among born-again Christianity to become part of government. Born-again Christianity, evangelists do not want separation of church and state. They believe it's their duty to bring God back into every aspect of our lives, including government, and abortion is part of that. Pro-life is part of that. If we don't stop the incursion of religion into government, we will have not only control of women's bodies, we will have control of how women dress. You know about modesty, don't you? Get your burqa color chosen now. That's the way it's going to work. And we are so spoiled by being comfortable in this country and thinking somebody will fix it, somebody will make it better, that we're going to go under and not even know we're drowning.
I just want to say, I feel like I bashed the Democrats too much, and I have been upset with Democrats. I mean, I did vote for them, but still, I didn't vote because I thought they were the best option. It's just that we didn't have any other option, you know, any viable option for me. But I think we also have to consider that the religious aspect is a big deal when you think about Democrats versus conservatives in general, everywhere. It's the same in Turkey. If you're a conservative, you have such networks that all work together and you remain in this very, you know, in this bubble sometimes, but also you are so committed to the same values. So, for example, if Trump does something wrong, they are less likely to criticize Trump if they are Trump supporters or if they are more conservative Republicans. But we do criticize the Democratic Party, right? So the
Right.
Democrats do not blindly follow a certain party, but I think conservatives tend to have that attitude, and this is the same thing in Turkey. So for Democrats, it's always harder to run against conservatives.
Especially when you throw a religion into the mix. And I think, and Emily and I, and we've talked about this previously, you ask about why abortion is such an issue. Well, if you look at the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church in America, their one issue is abortion. And that is why they embraced Donald Trump and the Republican Party, is because of their opposition to abortion. Now, and it's a very powerful group. They have influence with their parishioners. And so, that sort of also gets into the mix. And so, the Democrats somehow have to respond. I mean, they just can't roll over when you have these kinds of forces at play.
Well,
Right?
because
ahead,
so
Em.
many Democrats have ethnic backgrounds. They are Catholic, or
Yes.
have been raised Catholic, or like me, were Catholic, okay? And it's very hard when from the time you could speak any language and were part of the church, it's very hard to stand up and say, wait a minute. The Catholic Church is also against birth control.
Yep.
Because we need more Catholics. So why are they against abortion? Because we need more Catholics, just like Republicans are against abortion because we need more white babies in this world to go to war. Okay. The Catholic Church apparently isn't against pedophilia, or they would do something about it, wouldn't
Right.
they?
Right.
No.
Right.
If we don't open our eyes to the evils of religion, and I mean not just a religion, we can point out the evils in every denomination that calls itself a follower of Christ, or of not Christ, of Allah. Okay.
Right.
Of all those gods that I can't name. Okay. We have to find our morality somewhere besides in what the political arms of our religious organizations are telling us. Catholicism is a great force for good. Oh my God, the charity that they commit all over the world, okay? And they're a great force, not for evil, but for darkness.
Right.
For the constriction of minds. They don't encourage us to think. They encourage us to follow. I was 14 years old when I figured that one out and stopped following. Yeah. And still, because of those 14 years of teaching, cannot join any other church. I am still a Catholic, a fallen away Catholic.
Yeah.
I think there's a good reason for being against abortion, but I think most religious people always lose the big picture and they focus on those things that are told to them and they memorize those things and they're against those. But when you say people are pro-life, I don't see that when they're talking about wars or when they're not raising their voice against what's going on in the Middle East, for example. So many kids are being killed. So it doesn't sound very genuine to me when they say we are pro-life and that's why we are against abortion. So I don't know.
Listen, this was really great. I'm hoping we can do this again. If not sooner, but maybe around the inaugural, because I'm sure Donald Trump is going to be saying things that will be of interest to all of us. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.